Today, we're going to talk about something really central to Islam, Salat, the ritual prayer. So let's jump right in. So let me ask you something. Do you ever find yourself in the middle of a prayer and it just feels, well, like you're going through the motions, like it's more of a checklist item than a real deep connection? It's a feeling a lot of people have, and it gets right to the heart of what we're talking about today. You know, this quote from our source material just hits the nail on the head. It's when prayer becomes about knowing and memorizing rather than understanding and practicing. It's that shift from heartfelt engagement to just muscle memory. So the real question is, how do we get back to the understanding and practicing part? Well, the answer, interestingly enough, doesn't start with the prayer itself. It starts way before that. It starts by remembering a connection that maybe, just maybe, we've forgotten. And this is what's so fascinating, right? When you look at Islam, the very first requirement isn't the act of praying. It's establishing iman, or faith. I love this analogy. You can't really go on a date with someone you're not in a relationship with first. Faith, well, that is the relationship. Okay, so if faith is the relationship, then what's the prayer? This is where we get to this really powerful way of looking at it, thinking of prayer as a kind of divine date. And look at this. This is where it all clicks. If your faith is that constant underlying love story you have with God, then Salat is that special scheduled meeting. It's not some chore you have to do. No, it's a visit with a loved one, something you actually want to do. And get this, out of all the possible ways you could connect, God specifically pointed to prayer as the best way. It's like a direct invitation, basically saying, hey, you can reach out anytime, but this is how I love to hear from you the most, which brings us to a really crucial point. Prayer was never meant to feel like a burden. In fact, if you look at its origin story, you'll see it was actually an incredible gift, one that was born out of a time of just immense suffering. And you really have to understand this backstory. For the first 12 years of Islam, believe it or not, there was no command for daily prayer. It only came after the community had gone through this absolutely brutal boycott. We're talking starvation, despair, the whole thing. The command for prayer, it was a direct lifeline in response to all that pain. Think about what that meant. Before this moment, an ordinary person couldn't just talk to God. If you needed help or guidance, you had to go through a prophet, an intermediary. There was no direct line. So can you imagine? You're in that state of total hardship, and then suddenly you are given a direct, open channel to the ultimate source of help 5 times a day. No appointment necessary. That's not a burden. Wow, that is an unbelievable privilege. It's your direct line. Okay, so what about the actual physical prayer? You've probably noticed that people pray in slightly different ways, right? Well, there's a beautiful reason for that, and it's all part of this language of love. So why the differences in how people stand or raise their hands? It's not because someone's getting it wrong. It's because the prophet himself was seen praying in slightly different ways at different times. Some companions saw him raise his hands to his ears, others to his shoulders. They just recorded what they saw, which gives us a few different, but all totally valid ways to do. In this flexibility, it's seen as a mercy from God. The idea was to stop prayer from becoming this super rigid, difficult thing. You could think of it like a game, you know? The main rules are the same for everyone, but every player gets to have their own style. All right, so we've got all this context. Now for the big question. How do we actually keep that spark alive in our daily lives? Especially when things start to feel a little routine. Okay, first things first, we've got to bust a major myth. The Quran doesn't say that more prayer is better or that longer prayer is better. The key principle is something called ahsanu amala, which basically means doing the best possible action. It's all about quality, not quantity. And that brings us to this incredibly important idea of khushuk. What is it? It's that state of being completely present, totally focused, and having a sincere connection during your prayer. It's about the quality of that divine date, not just showing up for it. So what do you do if that feeling starts to fade? Well, the advice is, honestly, it's a lot like how you'd rekindle any important relationship. First, remember your why. Why did this relationship, your faith, even begin? Then, think back on all the past blessings, those moments of gratitude. And hey, sometimes you just need to mix it up. pray somewhere new, visit a different mosque. It's like taking a special trip to reconnect. So let's just recap. The whole point here is to get past these common hang-ups. Prayer isn't just an obligation to check off a list, it's a privilege. It's not about being the longest, it's about being the most sincere. And there's not just one single right way to do it. There's this beautiful intentional flexibility built right in. You see, when you stop thinking of prayer as a transaction, something you owe, and start seeing it as a relationship you get to nurture, it changes everything. And that really leaves us with one big question to ask ourselves: how are you keeping that spark alive?